Welcome back to the program. So, we're going to talk about two different things today. We're going to talk about first, in this first segment, the SAVE Act and what's happening, all the new developments around that. And then in the second one, we're going to talk about Iran and what has happened in the last 24 to 48 hours that really are really good for the Iranian people. But first, let's talk about what we're going to talk about. So, there's been a tease, and I guess that's what you can call it, for about the last week and a half. I've even mentioned it on the show as well, that there's going to be a pretty big bombshell explosion coming as they're debating in the Senate the SAVE Act. And it was going to involve China interfering with our elections. Well, I'm here to tell you that that information has now come to fruition. So I want you to listen closely to what John Solomon from Just the News has to say.
And today we have a bombshell, something that has been kept from you for nearly 6 years. In as early as February of 2020, the United States Intelligence Community determined that China had breached U.S. voter registration data, had gained access to the data that voters used to register to vote in the 2020 election. Now remember, we've been told time and time again there were no foreign interferences in the 2020 election. But the U.S. intelligence community absolutely concluded
The safest election in U.S. history, right, Sissa?
that China had done this. They had several reports involving several states. Now, we don't know this yet because anyone in the Trump administration has declassified that information. They may soon do so. We've asked them to, and I believe they're honestly working on it. We know this because we were able to get a document that was declassified by the Biden administration that referred to these findings in April of 2020. It is a
So in April of 2020, months after, of course, they stole the election, right? We now know that it was stolen, 100% stolen from multiple countries, but of course China was a main one. Venezuela was another. Spain helped out. Pakistan helped out. So many others helped out as well. Ukraine certainly helped out. Russia probably had some part of it as well. And so this was an international, cluster, against the United States and against President Trump. And this information came out when we were calling exactly what this was, a stolen election. That's why for all those years, I refused to say President Biden. I would call him the illegitimately selected fake president. I would say it all the time. As a matter of fact, I was told that I couldn't get back onto Newsmax back in the day unless I called him or talked to the people and on the air about President, quote, Biden by his name. And I said, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to do it. I'm absolutely not going to do it. And they said, well, I'm sorry, then we can't book you anymore. Okay? So I've taken my lumps. We've all taken our lumps. We've all suffered tremendously from the AutoPen illegitimate administration.
National Intelligence Council memo. If you go over to justthenews.com right now, the story just moved a few minutes ago. You can download that document and read it yourself. Page 3, paragraph 2, a single sentence that says that China began accessing voter registration data in hopes of analyzing American public opinion in the 2020 election. Now, we have several intelligence officials confirming that this has been covered up for years. The only person ever to refer to it was the current CIA director, then the director of national intelligence under President Trump in 2020, who made reference to China's extensive intrusions on the 2020 election, accusing the CIA at the time of not paying enough attention to it. Now he's the director of the CIA, John Ratcliffe is, but you will see all of the data. There are memos, interviews, open source intelligence that would guide you to all of the facts, all on the record. It is a pretty big story. Go check it out at justthenews.com.
So there you have it. Nothing new, obviously. We've known about this for years. Maybe shocking to the people that don't pay attention and put their head in the sand and said, oh, no, it was a legitimate election. Yeah, sure, right, whatever. Yeah, you believe in fractional voting? Because I don't. And that's what those machines were putting out, okay? Not to mention the fact that an old white disheveled, dementia-riddled person somehow got more votes from black people in Allegheny County, in Philadelphia, Maricopa County, Las Vegas, Wayne County, Milwaukee, all these different places. I mean, come on. We know. Atlanta, give me a break. So we know that it was stolen 100%. So is that going to be a motivating factor to get the SAVE Act passed? Well, I don't know. But what I will say is some of the information that is coming out right now. Now, you may know, you may not know, the Senate right now is basically discussing and talking about the SAVE Act. And it passed 51-48 today out of what's known as committee. So in other words, it goes to the full floor. So they are now, quote unquote, debating it. And I'm sure you're going to see tons of highlights of people talking about, the SAVE Act and why we need it and all that stuff, okay? I'll get into more of the minutia here in a second. So the U.S. Senate on Tuesday voted to advance the SAVE Act in a 51-48 vote. And it says here that the Republicans are, quote, prepared to, quote, take over the Senate to push for action on the Save America Act. Senate Republicans on Tuesday successfully launched their floor takeover to put Senate Democrats on record against Trump-backed voter ID legislation. It's a move to shift the spotlight from internal GOP divisions over the safeguarding of the American Voter Eligibility Act, also known as the SAVE Act, and put it onto Senate Democrats, who are ultimately withholding the needed votes to pass the bill. Not a single Democrat is going to support this bill. It's radical, of course, to Chucky Schumer, who just years ago said that we need something like this, right? But now it's President Trump, so of course it's radical. Republicans try to burn their time on this legislation here on the pose. Every Democrat will be against it. Well, that's not exactly true, as Fetterman has already signaled that he would support it. So lying Chuck and crying Chuck is not right. Polling shows broad support, 75-80%. Republicans, Democrats, Independents, whatever. Even Democrats are 70%. Republicans 95-98%. Independents in the 80s. Okay, all support the issues that are included in the Save America Act. But of course, the Democrats don't want it because they want to cheat in elections. Okay, now we all know that. It's not hard to figure out. So Leader Thune, and I use that in parentheses because he's not much of a leader, has said that polling has shown broad support for all of the issues included in the Save America Act, but never underestimate Democrats' ability to get on the wrong side of history and what the American people want, he said. Following the Senate's vote to advance the Save America Act, Thune filed several amendments on the bill. And he said, following the successful procedural vote on the Save America Act, John Thune has filed several amendments on the bill, saying that, quote, this should set the bill up for debate without Democrats being able to, quote, hijack it. Okay? So that is a positive. Now, the other thing that I want to touch on is this. There are 13 Democrats that are trying to hold on to their seats, okay, right now in the Senate that are up in 2026's midterm. Now, the majority of them are just garbage. Illinois, Massachusetts, Colorado, nowhere Republicans really have a shot, okay? But there is one seat in particular that absolutely should flip back to Republicans, and that is Georgia, and that is Jon Ossoff's seat, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put together a new graphic with new information and new numbers, and it will be in the thumbnail, and I want you all to put the pressure on these people immediately, because what I'm hearing is that this could take a week, maybe longer, of debate. Now, is this ultimately going to pass on this round? No, because you need the 60 votes, and these pussies are afraid to drop down to the talking filibuster, right? Well, there is a groundswell of people that are pushing all of these senators to get off their ass and support the talking filibuster. And day by day, more and more and more are agreeing to using it. So again, as I've already told you, this is going to be a tough, long battle. But we will win this battle if we stay together, we stay engaged, and we stay active. And it's really going to depend on all of us. This is not the first rodeo. I told you when we won in 2024 that there's going to be times moving forward where we are going to have to put pressure campaigns on Republicans to get things done. Well, here is yet another one. The first one was, of course, the one big beautiful bill. And guess what? We were successful. We got that done. This is even more important as far as I'm concerned. And this is one, and this is a hill that we will die on. We have got to get this to be passed. And that's exactly what we're going to concentrate on doing until it is on President Trump's desk and we can celebrate election integrity. I will not relent. I will not stop. I will not drop this subject. We are focused 100% like a laser on just this. Okay? Whatever's going on, Iran, Cuba, I don't care. This is the most important thing in the entire world. And we are going to be focused on getting this done. Now, what is happening right now? Let me explain what's happening. Republicans are basically putting Democrats on record. So any Democrat that votes against a bill that is supported by 80% of Americans is what they're doing right now. So they want to get all Democrats on record that oppose this so that they can run on it in the midterms, which is going to help Republicans. But more importantly, if there's a pressure campaign on at least one or two Democrats, and we can get them to flip because they're worried about losing re-election, Jon Ossoff immediately comes to mind. Governor Cooper in North Carolina is running for the Senate, but he's not there for the votes. So many of these Democrats that are against it, there's no reason to call them because they're retiring. And the people that are running to take their place, well, they're not there to vote anyway, so there's really only one person, and that's Jon Ossoff. And if we hammer this Jon Ossoff character, who, by the way, had full ID and security for his town halls, but yet doesn't support voter ID for voting in our elections. Yeah, talk about hypocrisy there. We're going to focus on him. I believe that Fetterman is already in the bag. I do. I believe he's going to vote with us. So we already have that one. But Jon Ossoff is going to be the next target because he's in an extremely tough re-election battle in a very red state of Georgia. So we've got to get him to flip. And we need to make sure that Georgia voters understand that this guy is against voter ID. Okay? And so that's going to be very important. So I'll make sure and include that information. So what this is doing, first round, it's going to fail. Okay, I'm just going to be honest and upfront. This is going to fail. But it's going to put them on record that they are against voter ID. And maybe, just maybe, with enough pressure and enough support and enough pressure from the MAGA movement, we're going to motivate these people that are running for re-election to get their asses on board, do this talking filibuster, and get this damn thing done. And we will not stop until it's signed into law. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.